In this video, we will dive into the movie Moana. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie prediction details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide the reviews and personal reactions. Let's begin with the story. The film opens with a woman's voice explaining the history of the world. When the planet began, it was covered in ocean, only water. Then came land. The first island was Tifiti, who looks like plants in the shape of a woman. She lays down into the water and becomes the green, lush island. The heart of Tifiti is an ancient green gemstone at the center of the island that brings life to the world. Until, as Grandma explains, the mischievous and brazen demigod Mui arrived. Mui has a magic fish hook that he uses to shapeshift into various animals in order to make his way through the island, and using his hook, he steals the heart of Tifiti. Immediately, things that were once green being turning back. Mui attempted to flee the island, but Taka, a giant lava monster goddess, also wanted the heart of Tifiti. Hits Mui with one of her fireballs as he tried to make his escape. The heart of Tifiti was lost in the sea and Mui was not seen again. This is all revealed to be a story Grandma is telling a group of average young children. They all seem scared except young Moana, who wanders out to the ocean. The ocean has a mind of its own and begins leaving shells that lead Moana into the water, where the water holds up the heart of Tifiti. Moana reaches for it, but then her father, Chief Toi, comes looking for her, and the ocean pushes Moana back to shore, and the heart of Tifiti goes missing again. The first song, Where You Are, shows that Moana grows up on the island of Midonai, always wanting to explore the sea. But Chief Tui teaches her his philosophy that happiness is where you are. They do not leave the island under any circumstance. The Moana, who is a child, and they have everything they need on the island. She is being groomed to someday be the chief and must follow the rules. Grandma, who the village think is a little bit crazy, encourage Moana to follow her heart first and foremost. Moana is now a teenager with a pet pig Poa and a chicken named Hui Hui, who is incredibly stupid and doesn't even know how to eat. Moana has accepted her father's rules and seems at peace with them. But then she sings How Far I'll Go about how the ocean calls to her, how she wants to explore, how far it goes, and how it's hard for her to be the perfect daughter to her father when what she wants to do is answer the call of the sea. Bad news happens coming in from the people of Motunoi. The harvested coconuts are back and rotten on the inside, and there have been no fish to catch for the village. Moana suggests sailing out further to find more fish, and her father gets incredibly mad at her, screaming at her that he thought she was through with this. Moana mother Sina explained to her that her father is just protective of her. When he was a young man, he and his best friend also sailed far out, and the waters were raging so hard that his friend drowned. They stay on the island for their protection. Moana, fed up, decided to prove her father wrong by sailing out to sea. She and Poa go out onto the water but are nearly killed by the dangerous waters. Moana is dejected and decided to give up on her dreams of seeing what's out there on the sea, and her grandma seems to let her. When Moana asks why she is not going to try to stop her, her grandma tells her when she dies she is going to come back as a manta ray. Moana finally gives it and asks what her grandma wants, so she takes her to a cave where the entrance is blocked by rocks and boulders. Moana goes inside and discovers a fleet of ships, and after banging the drums at the helm, sees vision of her ancestors in the song We Know the Way. She discovers her people were voyagers sailing across the seas and making discoveries. Mona is thrilled and asks her grandma what changed. Her grandma explained that once the heart of Tifiti was removed, the world became dangerous and deadly, and now even their remote is not island is not safe. Once again, the ocean offered the heart of Tifiti to her, and Mona is thrilled until she altered that her grandma has fallen ill. She goes to her bedside where her grandma tells her she knows the ocean chose Moana. She saw the ocean call to her as a young girl. She tells Moana the only way to save the village to find the trickster Moi and return him to Tifiti to restore the heart. She can find Moi by following the book Constellation Moana carries and tells her grandma she doesn't want to leave her, but grandma explains that she will always be with her. She gives her a necklace to keep the heart in. Moana is leaving and her mother catches her gang but hugs her and lets her go. Moana sails out to sea and sees the spirit of a manta ray leading her way. Grandma has died. Moana is sailing towards Mui when she discovers he was accidentally stowed away on the ship. The waters become rough one night and Moana crashes on a teeny island. At first she is mad at the ocean for being so harsh, but she discovers she has found Mui, who has been stranded on the island for 1000 years. She confronts him and explains her plan to undo the damage he did. But Mui explains he is not the bad guy, he is the hero of men. He sings You Are Welcome, explaining he brought fire, built the sky, and Luzon the son of humans, and they should be thanking him. He has tattoos of every one of his accomplishments. He gets Mona on board with his song, then traps her in a cave and steals her boat. She manages to claim her way out and catches Moi before he is too far out to sea. He keeps throwing her overboard, but the ocean immediately plops her back on the board. And they are arguing. Three ships filled with Kakamora, little cute but dangerous, glamper like parrots, begin attacking their boat, wanting the incredible value heart of Tifiti. He swallowed it and they kidnapped him. Mui is ready to leave, but in a big action sequence, Moana rescues Hihi and manages to get the Kakemora to crash. Mui is impressed. Moana convinces Mui that if he does return the heart, he will be a hero to the people exactly like he wants. So he agrees, on the condition that they retrieve his hook which he lost. Without it, he can do no magic and cannot shapeshift. He knows who would have this hook, Tamatua, who loves collecting rare and valuable artifacts. He leads Mana, who is not the best sailor, to a tall mountain. It is the entrance to Lalotai, the realm of monsters. He assumes Moana will wait with the boat and is surprised when he follows him to the entrance. They drop down into the monster filled world and Moana sees the hook on a treasure pile. She attempts to steal it but the pile moves. It's the back of a giant monster crab shell. That's right. Tamatoa is a giant crab. He is a sissy and vain and obsessed with shiny things. He sings a song called Shiny as he attempts to eat Moana. Mui tries to get his hook, but Tamatoa is putting up a fight. Mui finally gets it and still cannot shapeshift. He is devastated, and Tamatoa is about to kill him when Moana holds up the heart of Tifiti the shiniest prize ever, and uses it to distract Tamatoa. She lets Tamatoa get it and she and Mui escapes. Mui says that they have to go back for the heart, but Moana reveals she covered a rock in the bulminescent seafloor. It was a fake. Back on the boat, Moana asked Mui about something Tamatoa said about wanting to please the humans who rejected him. She noticed his tattoo of a woman throwing a baby into the ocean. Mui refuses to talk about it and finally admit he was born human. His parents didn't want him and throw him into the ocean, which saved him and made him a demigod and gave him powers. Moana realized that why he's always been trying to please humans. Mui wants to give up since his magic doesn't even work, but Moana convinces him to keep trying. He practices his magic while also teaching Moana how to navigate the ocean. She becomes very good at it. They finally reach Tifiti, knowing the hardest part is going to be getting past Teka, who emerge from the rock ferry and angry. They try very hard. Taka is made of fire and cannot touch the water, but Mui is hit, damaging his hook. They are forced to retreat. Moana says they have to go back, but Mui gives up, furious. If this hook takes one more hit, it will be destroyed and he will have no more powers. He wants to quit, but Moana tells him she cannot do it alone. He cannot believe he was stupid enough to think Moana could be the chosen one. Moana pleads that the ocean choose her, and Mui coldly says it is wrong. He shapeshifts into a bird and flies away. Moana is heartbroken and tells the ocean to take the heart back. She tells the ocean it has the wrong color and lets the heart begin sinking. Just then, the manta ray comes through the water and appears to her as Grandma. Moana tells her she cannot do it, and Grandma says if she wants to go home, it's alright. She asks Moana who she is, and Moana sings I am Moana and realizes that the call to action was not coming from the ocean, it was inside her heart. She knows what she must do. She dives back into the water and gets the heart. The next day, Moana uses her sailing skill to take on Taka. She wages battle against her, managing to fake her out and get past her rocks. In a pivotal moment, she loses the heart, but he, in his one moment of helpfulness, grabs it with his mouth, saving it. Furious, Taka gets ready to deliver a lethal fireball when Mui appears. Moana is relieved he came back and he asks her to keep going while he distracts Taka. He manages to protect Moana enough to get her to the Tifiti shore, but his hook is sadly destroyed by Taka. Moana climbs over the rocks to put the heart of the island back and discovers it's gone. Tifiti is nowhere, it's just water. She is confused but then realizes sinking, know who you are. She understands that Taka is the Tifiti. Without her hearts, this is what she became. She tells Tifiti Taka this is not who she is. She orders the ocean to pass so Taka can reach her, and she places the heart back inside her. Taka transforms back into beautiful Tifiti, green and full of life. The death of the planet is stopped. Tifiti is grateful and gives Mui a new magical hook. Mui thanks Moana for helping him and even gets a new tattoo, one of the strong young women he is come to know. Moana returns home and discovers it has been restored. Her family is happy to see her, and the fleet of ships is released so her people can become explorer once again. Moana leads the fleet out to sea, teaching her people how to navigate the ocean. Moana 2016 American 3D computer animated musical adventure film produced by Walt Disney Animation Studios and released by Walt Disney Pictures It is the 56th Disney animated feature film directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, co-directed by Don Hall and Chris Williams. The film introduced Ollie Craval as Moana and featured the voice of Dan Jensen, Rachel House, Tamara Morrison, Jamie Clement, Nicole Sanders, and Alan Tudyk, narrated by Hattie Moran. The film features songs written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Optai, and Mark Manessa, and an orchestral score also composed by Monica. The film tells the story of Moana, the strong wild daughter of a chief of the Polynesian village, who is chosen by the ocean itself to reunite a mystical relic and the goodness to Fiti. When a blight strikes her island, Moana sets sail in search of Moi, a legendary demigod, in the hope of returning the relic to Te Fiti and saving her people. Moana was released theatrically in the United States on November 23, 2016, to positive reviews from critics, with particular praise going toward its animation, music, and vocal performances. The film went on to gross over $690 million worldwide, along with Zootopia. It marked the first time since 2002 that Walt Disney Animation Studio released two feature films in the same year. It received two Academy Award nominations at the 89th Academy Award, one of the Best Animated Feature and another for Best Original Song, How Far I Will Go. The plot of the movie is that on the Polynesian island of Motunui, the inhabitants worship the goddess Te Fiti, who brought life to the ocean using a Ponoma stone as her heart and the source of her power. Mui, the shape-shifting demigod and master of sailing, steal the heart to give humanity the power of creation. However, Te Fiti disintegrates and Mui is attacked by another who seeks the heart. Taka, a volcanic demon, Mui is blasted out of the sky, losing both his magical giant fishhook and the heart to the depth of the sea. A millennium later, the ocean chooses Moana, daughter of Motunai's chief Tui, to return to her to Te Fiti. Tui takes Moana away, causing her to lose the heart. Tui and Sina, Moana's mother, try to keep her away from the ocean to prepare her for ascension as the island's chief. 16 years later, a blight strikes the island, killing vegetation and shrinking the fish catch. Moana suggests going beyond the island's reef to find more fish and figure out what is happening, but Tui forbids it. Moana tries conquering the reef but is overpowered by the tides and shipwrecked back to Montai with Poa the pig. Moana's grandmother Tala shows her a secret cave of ships, revealing that their people were voggers until Mui stole the Fiti's heart. The ocean was no longer safe without it. Tala explained that Taka's darkness is poisoning the island but can be cured if Moana finds Mui and makes him restore the heart of Te Fiti, which he gives to Moana. Tala falls ill and on her deathbed tells Moana that she must depart to find Mui. Setting sail on a chamiku from the cabin, Moana is caught in a typhoon and shipwrecked on an island where she finds Mui, who boasts about his achievements. She demands that Mui return the heart, but he refuses and traps her in a cave. She escapes and confronts Mui, who reluctantly lets her on the chamiku. They are attacked by Kikibora, small coconut armored parrots who seek the heart, but Moana and Mui outwit them. Moana realizes Mui is no longer a hero since he stole the heart and cursed the world and convinces him to redeem himself by returning the heart. Mui first needs to retrieve his magical fishhook in Lalotai, the ram of monster from Temotua, a giant coconut crab. While Moana distracts Tamotua, Moi retrieves his hook but discovers he can no longer control his shape shifting. He is overpowered by Tamotua, but Moana's quick thinking allows them to escape with the hook. Movie reveals that his first tattoo was earned when his mortal parents rejected him. After resonance from Moana, Mui teaches her the art of sailing, regaining control of his powers, and the two grow closer. They arrive at Tifiti Island only to be attacked by Taka. Moana refuses to turn back, resulting in Mui Hook casting badly damage. Unwilling to lose his hook in another confrontation with Taka, Mui abandons Moana, who tearfully asks the ocean to find someone else to restore the heart. The ocean obliges and take the heart, and Moana started crying. Taka destroyed all of Moana's world, and Mui gotten out of Moana's world before Taka destroyed all of Moana's world by Mui transforming Mui into a tarragate. The cast of the movie is Oli Cravel as Moana, the curious daughter of village chief Toi, and his wife Sina, who is chosen by the ocean to restore the heart of Tifiti. Oi Cravel reprised her role in the Hawaiian language version of the movie. Liu was as a younger Moana. Dan Jensen is Bui, a legendary, strong, wild yet easily annoyed, shape-shifting demigod who sets off with Moana on her journey. Rachel House as Tala, Toy mother and Moana, parental grandmother like Moana. Tala shares the passion of the ocean, and the two have a very deep bond. Tamara Morrison was Toy, Moana's outprotective father. Production development. After directing The Parrots and Frog 2009, Climate and Musker started working on adaptation of Terry Pratchett's Mort. But problems with acquiring the necessary film right prevent them from continuing with the project. To avoid the recurrence of that issue, they pitched three original ideas. The genesis of one of those ideas, the one that was ultimately greenlit, occurred in 2011, when Musker began reading upon a potential mythology and learns of the horrific exploration of the demigod. The box office success of Moana feels like Disney, an old-school Disney formula plus 21st century polish plus great songs plus the mere presence of Diane Jensen and near universal critical is a surefire recipe for success. How do you bet against that? While Disney Animation led the 5-day Thanksgiving holiday, other films used this window to also rise to the occasions, while a handful of new releases completely stalled. The movie Moana opened to $81 million over the 5-day holiday weekend, earning more than the early estimates and continuing to suggest that Disney animation was officially entered another renaissance. Unless things go very poorly in the week ahead, and that's unlikely, it will probably do Zootopia business in the long run. It may even do Frozen business, especially if kids become as addicted to the soundtrack as many writers and critics have predicted. In any case, keep your eye on this one. $1 billion feels like a very serious possibility, especially since it will still be playing when the winter holidays roll around. Second place belonged to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which displayed some pretty healthy endurance in its second weekend. This suggests that many Harry Potter loving families were waiting until the holiday week to check out J.K. Rowling's latest wizarding adventures. With 63 million over the 5-day holiday, the film now stands at $156 million. It will not reach the same height as the most financially successful Harry Potter movies, but it will do more than enough to make the 5-movie commitment by Warner Bros. Look like a smart idea. Other movies in the top 10 also showcases strong legs, with Doctor Strange crossing the $200 million mark and becoming the first ever solo Marvel superhero movie since Iron Man to do so, despite the qualifiers that fairly impressive. Arrival also continued to do surprising business, dropping a minuscule 7% to bring its total to $62 million. And while Trolls hit its first real speed bump this week, it stands at $135 million and managed to still do business in the face of Moana, which is no easy task. Even almost Christmas flicks its muscle, rising nearly 5% over last weekend gross and bringing its total to $36 million. But all was not well in the top 10. Bad Santa 2 arriving a few years too late and not benefiting from sketching reviews open with a poor $90 million, significantly lower than early estimate. The 2003 original was a sleeper hit at the domestic box office, opening to modest number before grossing $60 million. It's unlikely that the sequel, which will not have similar word of mouth, will follow suit. Moana would have been amorously entertaining regardless of when it came out, but its arrival at the particular moment in history gave it an added sense of significance as well as inspiration. The latest musical intervention from Walt Disney Animation Studio follow the adventure of a young woman who finds her own voice and forgets her own identity. She chooses to be forward thinking of her people on their own terms rather than a stereotypical princess in need of rescue, which the film acknowledges in amusingly knowing fashion. She has both the wisdom to respect her people's tradition and the bravery to blaze her own trail toward the future. Moana is on the verge of becoming the first female chief in the proud history of her Polynesian tribe, shattering the glass ceiling under spectacular blue skies. Imagine that. Sure, you could go see Moana for its dazzling visuals, catchy tunes, enjoyable performance, clever running gags, and overall sense of fun. It's all there and expect for a few scary moments it will delight viewers of all ages. But for some of us older folks in the crowd, it's hard to shake the feeling of wistful possibilities in seeing a woman assume the leadership position for which she was destined. It's a must see for girls and boys alike, though, and it features an astonishingly assured, auspicious debut from Oli I. Kraholo, a Hawaiian teenager showing chops and instincts well beyond her experience and years. It lending her voice to the title character, Caravalo radiates grace, great timing, and an infectious energy. And the film from the veteran directed team of Ron Climate and John Musker and a small army of writers gives her plenty of opportunity to shine both individually and part of a large colorful cast of characters. None is larger than Diane Jensen as the muscular demigod Mui, with whom Moana must team up to return a magical stone to its resting place and right an ancient wrong that steadily blocked the Pacific island over since including most presently her home. Being one of the most charismatic people on the planet, Johnson charmed with all the swaggers you had expect. And he is also capable of toying with his tough guy image as we have seen over the years. A running bit in which Mui's mask of tattoos comes to life to comment on the action and mock him provide a constantly funny Greek chorus, but Johnson does not get enough credit for his ability to connect with more intimate dramatic moments, and Moana allows him to show off that side of his talent too. The two enjoy plenty of highs and lows as they set out on the open ocean, learning to work together to navigate various obstacles and outsmart their foes. If you are thinking about bringing very young children, a giant lava monster might seem frightening to them, but everything else is pretty darn delightful, including a parrot armada of evil coconuts who attack in a hilarious and thrilling sequence that stayed out of Mad Max Fury Road. Hamilton mastermind Lin-Manuel Miranda co-wrote several of the songs that helps propel the action, including Moana's power anthem "How Far I Will Go" and Muse Bensi introductory tune "You Are Welcome." The former speaks to her yearning to break free and explore beyond the island's reef, something her father and mother have urged her not to do for fear of the dangers that may wait. While it mercifully lacked the same persistence or warm qualities of the ubiquitous Let It Go from Frozen, its message of female assertiveness makes it infinitely more worthwhile. Another major highlight is Shani, a campy little ditty song by Jemini Climate as a convincing crab with a taste of all things glittering and gold. It's hard to ignore the modern day political figure he calls to mind too. The details in these production numbers are just decadent. The colors are a million shades of green, blue, and the underwater creatures and setting have a wonderfully immersive. Lactile quality, maybe the movie goes for the easy physical cake a few times too many, as is the case with Moana's animal Pale, a cookie, cross-eyed chicken named Hee voiced by Alan Tudyk, who accidentally tags along when she dared to set out on the high seas. But Moana, a strong, curvy girl and not your typical stick figure princess, is ready for any challenge that comes her way, even a wacky sidekick. Moana Movie Review Sale of the Century from Disney. 2016 has been another strong year for animation alongside the superb stop motion of Leica's Kobo and the Two Strings. We have had the provocatively socio-political joys of Walt Disney Animation Studios, Zootropish, the gentle waves of Pixar's Finding Dory and the extraordinary body swaps of Makoto Shinkai Runaway Japanese Hit Your Name. All of these has been tipped as contenders for the Best Animated Feature Oscar alongside Studio Ghibli's The Red Turtle, which like nominations eagerly awaits things opens in the UK nearly next year. But Disney now has another fortuner in the shape of Moana, a joyous tale of the potential teenager quest to save her homeland, which boasts eye-watering visuals, earworm songs, and heart-swelling message about respect for the past and hopes for the future. As demigod Mui jeers, if you wear a dress and have an animal sidekick, you are princess. Yet 16-year-old Mona, beautifully voiced by Hawaiian newcomer Oli I Cravala, is something else, an explorer with a fire in her soul. Passed down through generation, her father Chief Tui insists that his people stay within the bones of the reef surrounding their island home of Montoy. But Mona has fallen in love not with some handsome suitor but with the sea. As a child, the waves parted for Mona, whose name means deep water, marking her as the ocean chosen one. So, when the time comes to save the island falling ecosystem, it is Mona who ventures into the wide blue jungle, drowning out her father's instruction to remain where you are, with her own song celebrating how far I will go. Having made their names with the hand-drawn trimpu of the Little Mermaid and Aladdin, Dr. Ron Climate and Joe Musker here segue shamelessly into their first CG feature, embracing the malleable magic of digital animation while retaining the clear lines that underpin their previous work. In contrast to the self-life figures of Frozen, Moana has a sturdiness that recalls the Hawaiian heroines of 2002 Lilo and Stitch. She also embodies the independent outsider spirit of Tiana from The Princess and the Frog, the lovely 2009 feature which with Musker and Climates revived the traditional animation skills that Disney had seemingly put aside in the wake of 2004 Home on the Range. Inspired by her grandmother who loves to dance with the water, Mona is on a mission to restore the heart of Tifiti, a magical stone stolen years ago by Mui, whose muscular frame is adorned by dancing tattoos. Think of the moves on the waves from Hercules, which proves Gemini cricket style conscience as commentary. Jason clearly deletions the role and wrings self deprecatory laughs from the ego messaging songs You Are Welcome. I know it's a lot, The Hair, The Board, written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, whose adored stage show Hamilton has been riding a new tidal wave of popularity since Donald Trump peevishly tweeted about its being overrated. Other musical highlights including Jamie Climate's Hermit Crab, Tamatoa's Blink Testicle Shiny, and the poignant I Am Moana, co-written with Aptaifoa and Mark Monica, both of whom do superb work on the soundtrack. In the course of their adventures, Moana and Mui encounter a swarm of diminutive Kakamora parrots whose shapes widely resemble the morphed monster truck of Mad Max Fury Road and face a fairy lava monster that pushes at the boundaries of the mild threat outlined in the BBFC's PG rating. But the most beautifully realized character is that of the ocean itself, a symphony of fluid movement whose waves become hands that aid our voyagers on their way. Not least in constantly saving Moana's half-written chicken champion Hihi, the aforementioned animal sidekick who provides many slapstick laughs. As always, success has not come without controversy. In Stumble, Disney pulled a range of kids' costumes and pajamas aimed, complained that they constitute a ghastly form of brownface, cultural appropriations, and offense that the company clearly took seriously. But in the context of such news stories, it's worth remembering that Mona is the story of a female leader in waiting who is independent and progressive, who cares about the environmental and who looks beyond the borders of the homeland to face the challenge of the future. The film is an animated fantasy, but as 2016 comes to close, one could be forgiven for wishing it were real. Hi, it's time for Disney film review number 9. This time it's a return to the Disney rival area after 56 and the last original film released by Disney Animation Studio to date, Moana. Full disclosure, this hero's journey, but arguably the fourth Disney princess we have seen so far. Harrisly, the film opened Tabit's Moana princess status within itself. It is a chief shouter and hired a princess. I am saying so. Is one my and Diana favorite of Disney's recent films. Diana and I had each seen in 2 times period to this viewing. The last time of which was only a couple of month period, so we were wary that there may be some film fatigue. Setting is one that was through knowing the film too well. The might district some of its magic we could not have right. Before I go into the specific of why we hold this film in such high regard, let me run through that the film's about as it's a never film. I'll take extra care not to spoil too much in this review. You are welcome. Moana, the brave, adventurous, resourceful, occasionally goofy, yet kind-hearted protagonist, is hired to the chiefdom of her island, Montoni. However, she is torn between her fascination with the ocean and her duty to her people, and particularly her father, who has forbidden going beyond the reefs, having been traumatized by tragedy in his youth. She accepts her role as chief starter, yet the island way of life starts to deteriorate as a result of the goddess to Fiti missing her heart. It sounds strange, but it makes sense while you are watching, and with the guidance of her sagely grandmother, the stock eccentric mentor character who helps her realize that her people were once great explorer, it becomes apparent that she must defy her father and explore the open seas to save her people. Her mission then is to find the demigod Mui and get his help to restore the heart of Tifiti to save the world. Kui, a voyage full of fun, humor, emotion, and self-discovery. I am not going to make my words even though we were watching it for a third time. We loved it just as much, perhaps more, than the previous 2 times, and it sits proudly amongst the greatest animated feature or film full stop produced by Disney. What was so good about it? through. On a surface level, it provides a great action packed entertaining. From the opening lore with function not only to provide an introduction to the world Moana inhabits, but also establish her as a character who loves adventure to her battles to overcome the might of the ocean as well as her initial inability to sail. The stubborn demigod Mui and the various dangerous monsters they encountered culminating in a showdown against the titanic torture lava monster Taka. It's also a funny film too, with the interplay between Moana and Mui being particularly amusing, although special mention to the Vincent chicken Hee Hee, while also really adding into building a sense of the growing camaraderie between the characters. However, while the action packed set pieces and humor are strong, the film's emotional depth is what makes it great. The characters are strong, have clear motivations, consistency, and their journeys and development fit together seamlessly to create a beautiful thematic spawning of a film. Moana is essentially a story about identity, and almost all the characters have arc that tie into that. Moana is the most obvious from a young age. She is adventurous and, due to her kindness, always like it when kindness marks out a hero. Bravery and resourcefulness that she demonstrates in helping a small turtle is chosen by the ocean. Moreover, it is later apparent that she has exploring in her blood. However, it is also clear that she would be a great fit as the chief and gains great satisfaction from her role on the island too, which allows her to believe that she could perhaps be happy where she is. Of course, she ultimately is driven to the ocean to save her island, yet the voices of debate, both originating from the island and Mui's Kanekism, linger. So even while she outwardly asserts that she has been chosen, she does not truly believe in until she experiences failure and reaches a crisis moment where she ponders whether she was just made to take her place as chief instead with her cookie enigmatic grandmother's help, who refreshingly is not pushy about forcing her to do what's right, but gentle, encouraging, and kind, which allows Mona to find her own voice. Mona discovered that she is neither just a chief doubter nor an explorer, but both, culminating in a moment of pure cathartic where she triumphantly declares, I am Mona, which makes me a little emotional even recalling it. There is something refreshing and less wholesome in a narrative that does not simply assert that you are either A or B, but recognizes that a given individual has multiple callings. You are not forced to choose between one or the other. However, Mui was perfectly by Dan Jensen. We knew he could act so well. The Rock Jensen, despite his status as the comic hawk of the Dew, is probably one of the deepest, best written character in the film. His first appearance is antagonist as he steals the heart of Defeaty to set the stage for the adventure. Once Mona meets him, he is homaged in a vain, selfish, and cynical individual. Ultimately, however, it is apparent that his main motivation is a desire to be loved by people. Indeed, needs to be seen as a hero that Mona exploits initially to get Mui to help her in her quest to save her island. Stemming from her injection by his own parents, which leads to his constantly trying to do more and more to earn approval, leading to him causing a catalysm. The law causes hook, which he uses to transform into other creatures and expel to stew on his own failures. In particular, his mind is ravished by the self doubt of thinking that his hook is the only thing that makes him worth anything. Much like Aladdin believed that the genie is the only thing that gives him value in this film. His self doubt is particularly manifest in him being unable to use his hook initially. As Moana helps rediscover his own value, he is able to remaster its abilities. It is ultimately his willingness to embrace himself without the hook that is his mountain to overcome in the film. By contrast, one of the secondary antagonists, Jeremy Climate's villainous giant crab Tomata, serves to provide a counterexample to our heroes. And Moana's grandmother is encouraging Moana to find her own voice instead of embracing himself. He instead covers up his insecurities with superfluous gold and treasure. Did your granny say, "Listen to your heart, be who you are on the side"? I need three words to tear her argument apart. Your granny lied, I'd rather be shinny. And also watch me diesel like a damn it in the rough, which is most likely a reference to Aladdin, who by contrast is a damn it in the rough. However, this pass inevitably leads to unaided consumption, as no amount of shiny can compensate for lacking a sense of self. Particularly, I should mention the brandless slide roster he too, who is pretty useless for most of the film, providing comic relief, but even his limited play a key role at the end of the film. Finally, the fact that the story is about restoring the heart of TFT is no coincidence and is a backdrop that fits the overall theme of identity beautifully, culminating in an emotional ending which is both surprising and poignant, heightened by beautifully animation and music. Speaking of animation and music, both are stunning, evoking the hitting and complementing the great storytelling perfectly. The water animation looks incredible, just as well for a film which is set in the middle of the ocean for 80% of it. The character models are a great balance between detailed and cartoony, which should tend in a timelessness going forward. The cultural depiction seems respectful, and a lot of care has been obviously taken over them. It was nice that the majority of the character cast were of Polynesian descent. In particularly, a real strength of this is that there are never any distracting dissociation moment that displays from the setting. The important moral argument of this type of casting goes without saying. Moreover, the music, particularly the Pacific Island influence and language utilized, also help immerse the viewer into the setting and really evoke emotional too. That's before we get onto the songs themselves too, which were truly excellent. I bet Armona, I want song How Far I Will Go. So were there any less than brilliant things about the movie? Only a few maybe. There's a bit near the beginning where Moana father is about to burn down some boats, a law king Territon, but gets distracted by his dying mother, which was a bit messily told. It felt a bit like they had written themselves into a corner, which that bit is particular. Also, given the film's setup and the overprotectiveness of her father, it feels a bit strange that her parents are not a bit more panicked at the end of the film, given his daughter has been away for such a long time with no contact. I feel that there could have been a bit more emotion there than I am really scraping the barrel Mona's lucky at points. Not a valid sarcasm for me. Mary Sue, I don't think so. You don't see Moy's pivotal revelatory moments benefits the story. Some might argue that the fact it hits familiar beats in its story means it lacks originality, but I would disagree. Nothing is truly original. All art builds upon previous artwork. The consequence of film as a form of art is surely evidence of it itself. Someone made the first film, and people have been building on it ever since. I would argue that Moana does this. If a formula works, why not use it and build from there? A better question, however, is how well does the film as a medium of communication achieve that is set out to do? Moana made me laugh and cry. I emphasize with the characters I was engaged, and I feel it communicates its theme about identity pleasingly and clearly. What more can you ask from a family film. So, without further ado, here's my verdict. Entertainment, brilliantly enjoyable and well told story with excellent rewatchability, funny with brilliant catchy songs, engagement, highly emotional involvement with plenty of depth and impact, and an amazing and memorable cast of characters. Execution, a couple of bits I would have done slightly differently maybe, but overall a brilliant achievement with great writing, immaculate music and animation. Moana asks how far I will go. For me, it goes to the pinnacle of animation filmmaking with the striking 92%. Let's see if Diana agrees. Diana scores. Entertainment, brilliantly entertainment even on the third watch, excellent pacing, funny throughout, really rewatchable. What's not to love? Engagement is that all the characters are really likable. You are really rooting for Mona, and the relationship between her and Mui, as well as her grandma, is touching. Even her dad, who seems reasonable at first, is relatable. It gets me every time. I find Mona inspiring. Execution, the animation is beautiful, the music is really rousing and memorable, great songs, plot, and story. The character feels believable and three dimensional. The hammer hit its target, the twist at the end is really beautiful, excellent throughout. So, a nigh unperfect 95% score from Diana Shining. Let's see where that leads his comparison to previous films below. Look away now, Aladdin fans. I know it will upset some that we have rated Moana higher than Aladdin, and if we are honest, we did not think we would at the start of the experiment. But having watched both, we felt that Moana had more emotional depth, which gave it a slight edge. This is not to say that we don't love Aladdin too. It's one of our all-time favorite films and we absolutely adore it. But this should serve to demonstrate that in our eyes, Moana is an animated masterpiece that ranks alongside the very greatest film of the Disney Renaissance. If you have not seen it, what you are waiting for? You are missing out on a truly brilliant film watching experience. Next time for film number 10, we will be going deeper into the Pacific to Hawaii for Lilo and Stitch. Moana Movie Review 2016 movie. Moana and the animated spectacle that follow the story of a young girl is foregone tradition and family to find something bigger than herself, to restore and correct the world imbalanced by darkness sparked by the mistake of an ancient demigod. I have to admit, being dragged along by my sister to sit through yet another princess movie with her did not bode well for my movie watching mood, at least at first. Long story short, Jadis was swept away by the sheer beauty that is Moana. Thematically plentiful and visually impactful, the reluctance I felt at the entrance of the theater was replaced with a yearning to watch it again. Why? Because Moana is an animation masterpiece. Every possible detail was given close and precise attention. For each sunbather relief on the island, fully to every stand of higher holler dancing in the wind, one is sure to stare in awe at the intricate beauty of the picture, each detail culminating into a jaw-dropping spectacle of artistic skill and wonder. Stylistically, what stood out for me was the expert use of warm, tropical colors, which did well in illuminating the vibrancy of the fictional Motonui tribe, the sharp transition to darker, gloomier hues in sense of struggle and loss create atmosphere that transit from the story on the screen to the hearts of those in front of them. Part of why the movie is so visually impactful is with its animation style. Characters are fleshed out with a fresh sense of real design in its human characters. Mona waist is not overwhelmingly shiny, and her face is as emotive as the audience. Likewise, Grandma's long grey hair and sun-weathered skin was done in impressively realistic details. Even the natural scenery looked well natural. At times, I forget that Mona was an animated feature. Furthermore, animation was not only realistic but creative as well. Notably, there was a song number You Are Welcome, where three dimensional Mona and her demigod co adventurer Mui were juxtaposed onto a 2D hand drawn setting. Mui's hand drawn tattoos, which included a sentiment mini version of him, were extremely well received. It's heartwarming to witness how Disney still creates opportunities for personal hand drawn animation to be included in its movie even after the 2D animation studios have been retired. Now that I was overwhelmingly impressed with the movie's visual props, I was keen on listening out for the musical experience the film had to offer. It might seem that previous works such as Frozen and Tangled had placed the bar on unstable heights. After watching Moana, I argue that Disney has propelled the bar above the beyond. The movie instantly immerses listener into the rhythmic cadence of Polynesian music with Samoan musical opera folds I and rewound lyrics Lin-Manuel Miranda at the helm of music production. It is no wonder that the picture soundtrack is a flurry of flawness. Admittedly, I was gritting my teeth in excitement and anxiety. Excited because I was ready to be inspired, anxious because it's going to stick in my head for the next 3 years. As I waited this movie catching inspirational song and unfortunately for my head, the whole movie soundtrack has all the downloaded itself. My favorite being I Am Moana and You Are Welcome. The former because I need an anthem for self-identity, courage and strength for my upcoming years of A-levels and national service, the latter because it is just so catchy. Personally, the most unmistakable feature of the movie stylistically is Disney's efforts in creating a world that is not only culturally appropriate but also accurate in its depiction of the Pacifica. In fact, Mui's design has been redone a couple of times after consulting various anthropologists. Details from terrible tattoos to traditional dance to the beautiful weaving of Polynesian language into an film makes and admire the work put is to create such a setting. Disney's success is not besting its cards finds himself arc on a different culture but rather birthing a whole new intricate and astounding world that is both believable in nature and spectacular in splendor. However, like any piece of art, Mana is not immune to critique. Once again, we are treated to a brave young princess who goes against exceptional to venture on her own quest, during which we meet the male partner figure who will aid her whilst experience smaller shortcomings of his own. Rapunzel and Flying Rider Anna and Kristoff and now Moana and Mui. Hence, it may seem that Disney is simply adapting its trusty algorithm to produce another well loved movie, despite this arc that Moana is much, much more than the brave girl defying odds narrative. The movie outlines the quest of the daughter of village chief, not as the movie makes a point to mention a princess to find the meaning and identity of a society long forgotten. It is a god sacrificing her safety and welfare to restore life to her kingdom. It is the love of the granddaughter and the defying of self for self and not for anyone else. It is a story that is beautifully told and excitingly thrilling on that will interpret your sense from the get go. Besides that, the movie places a hilarious twist on the princess gender through Mona's animal companion. At the start of the movie, we were introduced to the perfect animal companion character, a cute facially expressive piglet who follows Moana wherever she goes. But when she escapes on her adventure, the animal stored in her trunk was not that piglet, rather, I was stupefying, brainless chicken named Hi who, when choosing between a blank space of air and nuts for food, picked the air. The movie also boasts a wide array of likable characters who we can both be inspired by as well as relate to. Mui, whose godly power and worth we soon discover is held at a feeble foundation of human validation, his sense of weakness and dependence is an aspect of his characterization that we may all relate to, and is essential to providing himself a self we can be proud of is one that is not only touching but inspirational as well. My favorite character, however, would be Mona's grandmother, who's quite aptly escapulate the soul of the story. Sometimes the world seems against you. The journey may leave a scare, but scare can heal and reveal just where you are. An expert amalgamation of senile armor and poor wisdom, Grandma Trala was simply a beautiful character to witness. Perhaps another criticism Moana might receive in its generalization of the Pacific Islanders. Disney interpretation of the what aspects of the culture seems best at telling the story. In reality, the politicians are diverse people from Simons to Fijians to Hawaiians and bending them under clutches such as in Mui's body type or the minorization of the Kakamora, a real terrifying Polynesian myth into the movie's version of merchandise might prove a bit problematic for the movie. Despite its minor flaw, the songs of the sea still echoes in my ears. The struggle and survival still fresh in my mind, and as the bits of the movie cling on to my being of the next stage of my life, Mona reminds me that where you are is not determined by geography, rather, it is where you carry your roots, traditional, family, and self. Ultimately, one should not miss the opportunity to be enthralled, enhanced, and inspired by the project Epiphany of Sound, Sea and Soul mystically painted with an immaculate image and dazzling design that is Moana. Moana movie review. On Motonoi, a small island is Polentia. Young Moana is being raised to lead but dreams of nautical adventures instead. Impending disaster causes her to finally head out past the reef, teaming up with a braggart demigod named Mui, played by Dan Jensen, on a mission involving a magical stone. Back in 1963, Disney has huge success with the project tapping into Polynesian culture. It was not a movie but a theme park attraction called the Enhancement Sticky Room that surrounded visitors with singing and motorcar birds. Moana movie 2016 ending explained. Having been released 8 years ago, Moana is still hailed as one of Disney's best princess movies. Princess characters have regularly been analyzed because of how outdated some of them have become. With Snow White being the first to make it to the screen, the 1937 film has proven to have old fashioned values that no longer hold up in today's society. Disney has moved on a lot since then, and with characters like Moana firmly in their catalog, the studios have proven themselves to want to write characters that young people are able to find inspiration in, which could help guide them in their own lives. Moana, played by Olili Caravalho, is a spirited young girl brought up in ancient Polynesia. The love she has for her family and culture is the trigger for her adventurous journey as she seeks to do right by her people, finding courage from the wise grandma Tala. Unlike many Disney stories what have come before Moana, the Rattler character doesn't search for love from another man, nor does she rely on a man to save her. In this film, Moana is her heroine and the savior everyone also needs. The film starts out in Montana, where Moana lives with her family. She is the daughter of Montana's chief Toi, the story of Tifiti, his gold, whose heart was the source of her power that created life and nature. Those who lived on the island worshipped the goddess, but her heart was stolen by the demigod Mui, who wanted to gift it to humanity. As he tried to take it, he was attacked by the fairy Taka, dropping the heart and losing it to the ocean as well as his hook. With Tifiti's power lost, the surrounding island began to fade. Years later, the ocean chose Moana to take the heart back to Tifiti, which her parents would not allow her to do. Tui had ventured out into the ocean as a young man and with his best friend, with the knowledge of his wayfinder ancestors in his mind. However, after his friend died at sea, Tui promised never to go back out and was not willing to let Mona to do so. Nevertheless, with a little encouragement from Grandma Tala before she died, Moana embarked on her own adventure and set sail to find Mui to get him to restore the heart of Tifiti. Taka and Tifiti were the same. Throughout the film, it's believed that Taka is a different force to Tifiti, however, they are in fact the same. After Tifiti's heart was stolen, she turned into an angered lava body's menace because Mui had disturbed nature's balance. Mona realized the truth and was no longer afraid to give the heart back to Taka. In the climactic scene, the ocean parts for Mona, providing a walkway directly to Taka. She furiously walked towards Taka even though Taka was still filled with fury and fire. Moana sings beautifully, explaining that she knew who Tika really was. The frightening appearances did not define Tifiti, and Moana wanted her to know that. Mui also got his hook back from Tifiti after her heart was restored. Her luscious greenery, adorned with flowers and nature, came back, and she was no longer in the form of Tika. Tifiti held Mona and Mui in the palm of her hand, and Mui made his apologies for what he did to her when he stole her heart without conjuring any excuses. His apology was well received and made Tifiti visibly happy. As such, he brought her other hand toward him and gave him back his hook, which he thought he would never see again. The tool had long been a part of Mui and his pursuits. It represented the things he had done and was something that he had missed since Tifiti had taken it away from him. Receives it back from Tifiti highlight that they were no longer on bad terms, and she seemingly understood that she had made a bad mistake, which was she willing to forgive because he had learned and become a better demigod. The ending ties up the messages and theme in the movie. Moana is bringing with theme and message that make it one of the best Disney movie to date. From the beginning, it's a Moana's self-belief and love for her people and sets her on her path. She thinks her herself, and when her parents are against her, she chooses to follow her heart. In her mind, the end results far outweigh the risk, and she did not need a prince to tell her what to do. In a few separate subplots, it is pointed out that someone's past doesn't need to define them. In the case of Tui, what happened to his friends was tragic, but the fear of going beyond the land meant that Monotai would continue to suffer with crops and nature failing. Had he found the bravery that Moana mustered in herself, then the suffering would have ended some time before. With Mui, he had caused a lot of pain, but Moana and Tifiti were able to see through his past and realize that he had not intentionally hurt anyone. His ego had certainly got in the way, and his action of stealing Tiffany's heart were completely wrong, but that did not mean he had to continue to be punished because he saw he fault in what he had done. Then, of course, there's a Tiffany as a Taka. He was furious, foursome, and seemingly unapproachable. But it was Mona's strength that managed to get to the roof of what was going on instead of being angry at Taka. Mona found it within herself to understand that Taka was not who Tifiti really was. The Tifiti had been wronged, so it was not surprising that a raging upset had bothered her. The start of Mona opened up the thought-provoking theme, while the ending tied them up. The message that nobody should stay stuck in their past and that it should not define them strongly came across to audience. But the brilliance of the writing meant that viewers were not protagonists or spoon-fed the theme. The Mona franchise is expanding. Having been such a well received Disney movie, the Moana franchise is expanding with Moana 2 is due out in November of the year. The sequel is said to be as variant and captivating as its predecessors, with Moana answering an unexpected call from an ancestor that required her to venture out onto the sea once again. Uli Aikravla will reprise her role as Mona alongside Dane the Rock Jensen, who will once again voice the demigod Mui. The two were a wonderful pairing for the first film. Their voice brought their characters to life and gave depth to their respective characters with emotion that helped to set the scene at every turning point. Having been such a positive part of the first film, fans are delighted to know what they will watch return as they have come to be firm parts of the film. If a sequel to the original animation was not enough, Mona is getting a live action remake. Digital Spy has recently reported that the lead Rattler character has been cast with Catherine Lagas talking on the role. The young performer previously appeared in the TV series The Last Flowers of Alice Art, but Mona will be Lega's first major movie role. Jansen will be acting the part he already knows so well in the live action remake playing Mui. Although the final details of both upcoming movies are yet to be revealed, it can be safely assumed that they will each be great success. Moana set such an impressive benchmark for other Disney films to follow. There's no doubt that Disney will do its utmost to keep the momentum going. Moana is a breath of fresh air to watch a Disney princess forge her own path and remake decisions based on her own feelings and bravery is something that audiences have longed for. The ending of the film perfectly tied any loose end and gave an emotional meaning to the whole story. Fans should begin to get excited about what the rest of the franchise is due to bringing, with Moana's story expanding into even more adventure. The movie Moana Disney sets new US box office record for studios in 2016. 2016 has without question been the years of Disney, beginning with the continued dominance of its record-breaking Star Wars The Force Awakens. The Mouse House managed to shatter one financial milestone after another over the past 11 months, starting with reaching $1 billion domestically and then just 2 months later hitting $5 billion worldwide. It's no longer than that 2016 has reached $10 billion in ticket sale in record time. And even though we are in the last month of the year, things don't look to settle down in the slightest, especially for Disney, which is continuing its recent trend of being the industry leader. Deadline is reporting that Walt Disney Studio, the movie arm of the Walt Disney Company, has accumulated $2.49 billion in domestic totals, making it a Hollywood record, and even better for the Mouse House, its earnings grew to $4 billion when worldwide totals are factored in, marking the first time the company has ever managed to do so, and only the second time It's happened in industry history following Universal showing of $4.44 billion just last year. Universal Studios also hold the previous record for best domestic box office, attaining $2.45 billion in 2015. Although the likes of Zootopia, The Jungle Book, Captain America Civil War, and of course Finding Dory all helped Disney on its way to such record breaking in the first half of the year. Those four movies total $4 billion internationally all by themselves. It's the brand new edition of Doctor Strange and Moana that have put the icing on the ticket selling cake. But the truly remarkable start of this bunch is what has not hit movie theaters yet. Rough One, a Star Wars story which looms like the Death Star itself over the holiday season. The film is already expected to make upwards of 130 million in its opening weekend, which could easily mean that it will be yet another billion-dollar crossing picture for Walt Disney Studios, not too shabby. The question through all of this, however, remains with legacy the past few years bursting box office will mean for the studios, specifically the Hollywood journally. There has already been much controversy over the profitability or the lack thereof of the film, like Warner Bros. Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, and one has to wonder whether similarly firing release, which is the vast bulk of movies it should be noted, will be regarded moving forward. We will not have too long to find out. Although Disney had such heavy hitters as Beauty and the Beast and the Avengers Infinity War lining up over the next 2 years. Universal will be countering with Fast 8 and Jurassic World 2 in the same time period where everyone else fits in or not should become immediately clear. Moana ending is that the Moana ending explains shows why the modern animation hit helped define the new era of Disney princess movies. Premiering in 2016, Moana follows the title character as she leaves her Polynesian island of Moana to return the magical heart to the goddess Tifiti to restore balance to nature. As the with most of Disney's animated features, Moana tells an impossible story that is brilliantly written to appeal to audience for all ages. On top of its visuals and storytelling, the film also features a memorable soundtrack of instantly recognizable songs. Mana was praised upon its release and it went on to score big at the box office and continue to be one of the most streamed titles on Disney Plus besides all the aspects that made Moana a quintessential Disney epic. The film stalled because it subverted expectation and presented a female lead who had ambitions outside of finding a man. On its way to becoming one of the highest grossing Disney animated movies, Moana set a precedent for what a Disney story could be, and part of that has to do with the film's complex ending. Teka was Tifiti all along. The blazing figure of the menacing Teka seems to be living embodiment of art's rap as it inflicted destruction upon the living. However, the film's pseudo twist ending actually served to not only change the narrative but also spoke to the theme of the rest of the story. When all hope seems lost at the end of Mona and she was concerned by Teka, Mona realized that she was actually dealing with Tifiti all along. The young hero then returned the heart to Teka, which pleased the goddess and allowed her to return to her original state. Mui stole the heart from Tifiti in the past, distributing the delicate balance of nature that kept things lush and green. As a result, the goddess Tifiti becomes bitter and jaded, transforming her into the seemingly evil Taka, thought she was dealing with forces much more significant than herself. Mona saw the humanity in the gods and realized that Tifiti Rake was not what defined her, and Mona refuses to judge her because of her bad decisions. That mature response allowed Mona to forgive her, father for his overly protective attitude. Did Moana die? Fan theory explain. When a Disney movie like Moana is not as straightforward as the usual kid-friendly fare, it is only natural for fans to devise elaborate theories about what is really happening in the film. One particularly dark theory posits that Moana died during the storm at the beginning, so she encountered the demigod movie when she washed up on the island he had been trapped on for millennia. The Disney main fan theory holds some weight as Mona does not encounter another human character until the end after she was supposedly brought back to life by Tifiti. It's an interesting interpretation of the film and unlike many fan theories, the idea that most of the events of Mona took place while she was dead does not alter the Mona's ending. Mona's post-credit scene explained. Disney often gave audiences a reason to stick around for the end credit, and Moana was no different. Moana's closing credit featured a rendition of the song How Far I Will Go by Alicia Cara, who performs the music that was initially sung by the movie star Oli Caravallo. After the credit, an extremely brief scene caught up with the villainous Tomatoes, who is still trapped on his back after his confrontation with Mui and Mona, lamenting his situation. Tomatoes referenced Sebastian from The Little Mermaid, suggesting that the movie exists in the same universe. Why did not the ocean return the heart itself? Mona's epic quest to return the heart to Tifiti was the entire impact for the movie, and thought there was deeper symbolic meaning behind her journey, something did not exactly add up. The ocean is shown to be a character itself, and it behaves like a sentient being as it serves up the heart to Mona and even rescues her on several oceans. While that reflects where Moana takes place on the importance of the sea to Polynesian culture, it is various why the ocean did not return the heart to Tifiti. It seems easy to say that it is a glaring plot hole and that fact is ignored for the sake of the movie's narrative, but it could also be explained by Tifiti's fairy state as Tekka. During her epic confrontation with Tifiti's inert form, Mona noticed that Tekka cannot touch the water, which explains why the ocean cannot hand over the heart without causing Tekka more harm. It is clear thought that a human has to return the heart because Mui, the embodiment of humanity possessed instincts, stole it in the first place. Mui was searching for acceptance. Played by Dan Jensen, the demigod character Mui was not only Mona's comic relief but also responsible for all the trouble that befell the humans. Shown to be a brash, arrogant, and self concerned being of not incomparable power, Mui was still imperfect and actually represent many of humanity's negative traits. He stole Tifiti's hearts, but he did not consider the consequences of his actions. Just as Mona was on a quest for inner discovery, so too was Mui, who ultimately wanted to be expected more than anything else. Everything that Mui did from the beginning to the end of Moana was to build up his larger than life persona and garner praise from humanity. Mui was once a human himself, but after being abandoned in the ocean by his parents, he was given a new lease on life as a mighty demigod. Despite that seeming upgrade, Moise never overcame his rejection and spent millennia trying to gain approval from those around him. Much like she saw the good in Tika, Mona eventually realized that Moise should not be defined by his previous bad decision. Mona's true story. As one of Disney's most well-researched featured films, Moana real-life inspirations are numerous and primarily drawn from the annals of Polynesian folklore. However, the film's primary basis is an actual period in Polynesian history that has somewhat baffled historians and anthropologists refer to as the long past Moana takes place during a nearly 1000-year period in the ancient Polynesian timeline in which the historically suffering people spent a millennium colonizing Ireland instead of spreading across the sea. While researchers are unsure why the 2016 Disney movie used the gray area of an ancient historical mystery to dream of its epic plot about Moi, Tifiti, and the heart. Moana is not a true story. The long past was not ended by a single person, but it still uses real history incredibly well. Moana's original ending explained. Moana defined Disney princess tradition, which garnered much praise for the film and characters. The original Moana ending almost completely went back on all the ground that was gained. According to Sanma Blend, it was not Moana who saved the day in the original ending, but it was her demigod friend and ally Mui. While the idea of Mui putting things right does bring the character full circle, it ultimately distracts from the title character and makes her seem much less important. The film director Ron Clements and John Musker were overwhelmed by many of the female members of their production staff, and the decision to scrap that ending was ultimately sound. This was a good decision as the Moana ending as a key reason the film became so beloved and so celebrated for appending the typical Disney princess trope of having a male character save the day. The real meaning of Moana's ending. The ending of Moana serves a twofold purpose for the story, as not only does it see the hero win in the end and free her people from the encroaching blight, but it also pays off the homes established throughout. From the beginning, Moana is curious about the world around her. She wants to know more, which causes a stir within the conservative leadership of her village, especially her father. That curiosity eventually lead her on the quest to return the heart and return her people to where they truly belonged as seafarers. The residents of Mortony were allowing the past to define their future, and it was causing stagnation and rot within their crops and symbolically within their very souls. Much in the same way that Tika was defeated after a millennium of pain, Montaigne's troubled past presents them in the present. The Moana ending sees the title character overcome her fear and trust Tika, and in doing so, she shown the pain of the past did not have to define someone in the future, an attitude that frees to Fiti from her own pain and frees her people from their stringent belief. How the Moana ending was received. Moana explained a great deal to Disney about what modern audiences look for it in their films, as it was one of the most successful animated features that House of Mouse has released in decades. The ending of Moana was key to the overwhelming positive response too. The 2016 Disney movie ranked in a staggering $687 million at the box office against a budget of 150 $175 million. And Moana still holds a 95% critical score and 89 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. The success of Moana is impossible to deny, and it no surprise that Disney eventually optioned the sequel Moana 2. However, Moana's success was not just when it was considered a new Disney film, it's gone on to have a lasting legacy, which it says the ending, among other things, to thank for. Moana was the most streamed movie in 2023, not just on Disney Plus but on all the platforms, which proves its rewatch value and the strength of the ending. It would not be a story viewers were so keen to revisit it, ending on a disappointing note after all. While the many catchy musical members are also undoubtedly a reason Moana is a Disney movie audience want to catch time and time again. The gripping story is just as responsible. The reason the ending of Moana explains its success is simple. It flips many of the traditional Disney princess tropes on their head. It was Mona, not Mui, who saved the day. There was no overarching romance, and Mona herself was treated as a genuine traditional hero throughout. This was her story, not a male character story that simply happened to have her name as the title. Critic Nick D. Seaman sums this up well in his review for Expire, contextualizing Moana and her importance of its ending for the new modern breed of Disney's princess stories. I am not a princess, Moana insists. If you wear a dress and you have an animal sidekick, you are a princess. Fires back Mui, she does and she has, but there's no love interest, and she is every bit the equal to her big chested, big talking, crustly, free companion. Like Frozen, it's a progressive Disney movie that nimbly dogs outdated tropes. How Moana's ending sets up the sequel. The Moana ending saw the title character teach her people and even her own father, the chief, that they need to get back out and explore the ocean. It is their destiny and their duty to explore. Moana 2 plays off that idea as the sequel sees Moana leading her people out to find their fellow islander who have remained lost since they had stopped connecting with anyone outside their own island. It's a vital for Moana to find and set up trade with her fellow islanders, and as she proved in the first movie, she is the perfect person for the job. Moana 2 also confirms that Moana has a lifelong ally in Mui who remains by her side. The two are now loyal friends, and the Moana ending shows that they can trust each other. With the ocean on her side and her experience of standing up to and saving an ancient being, the first movie's ending is a perfect launching pad for Moana to do something even more difficult in Moana 2 than she did in Moana: bring her people together. Was Moana in Once Upon a Time, the 2016 Disney character's role on the show explained? During its 7-year run, Once Upon a Time featured a collection of multiple different fairy tale and Disney characters, ranging from Snow White and Cinderella to the Frozen character Anna and Elsa. However, despite the show trying to stay up to date with recent Disney releases, on one Disney princess who never appeared in the show was Moana. Although she did not appear in person, elements of the hit 2016 film Moana did make it into the plot of the show. Mui was a foursome sea legend introduced in the show's 7th season. Although Mui did not appear himself, his famous fish hook did. Mui's fish hook was not the first mythical attempt to appear on the show. When it was difficult to incorporate a popular movie into Once Upon a Time, the show tended to turn the concept of it into mythology. An example of this was the Well o' the Wisp in season 5, the Pegasus flag, or Ursula's existence in the show's 3rd season. The whole show is based on the belief of something that cannot be proven. So when Hook needed Mui's fishhook to rescue his daughter, he still searched for it despite the legend that it might not exist. Moana did not appear in What, but Mui's fishhook did. Although none of the characters from Moana appeared in Once Upon a Time, Mui's fish hook did. The atom first appeared in season 7, episode 13, Nightfall. In this episode, Hook researched for a way to save his daughter. Alive from being trapped in a tower, Rumpelstiltskin tells him about Mui's fishhook, a relic that can break any prison. So, throughout the episode, Hook sets out on a quest to liquidate the fishhook. He then attempts to save his trapped daughter from Gothrel Towers, which is unfortunately unsuccessful. In the 2016 film Moana, the fish hook gives Muiz the power to shapeshift, a completely different power to the one it exhibits in Once Upon a Time. It arguably would have been more interesting if it had retained the shape-shifting abilities in the show. This would have allowed Hook to shapeshift into something else to try and free his daughter from Gothril. It also would have allowed the fishhook to appear more frequently on the show, as it would have been more interesting to see more characters use it to transform themselves rather than breaking free from a prison. Moise Fishhook saved the main character on multiple occasions. Although it just appeared in two episodes, Moise Fishhook played a huge role in Once Upon a Time after the failed attempt to save Alice in Nightfall. It felt like it was the last time Moise Fishhook would be featured on the show. However, the object collector appeared in the show's last ever episode titled Leaving Storybrooke. In this scene, Hook, Rumpelstiltskin, and the heroes are trapped inside an enhanced snow globe, freezing to death. Here, the fishhook appeared out of nowhere, and Hook was able to use it to escape and save everyone lives. The Moana is directed by John Musker and Ron Climate. Not to date myself here, but I was 16 when Moana first came out in theater. My family was never really a go to a movie kind of family, except when my mother would us to the $3 theater near Baltimore City as a once in a while treat. I kind of cultivated my love for the movie on my own throughout the year. Anyway, it took me a while to see Moana for the first time. My sister collects DVDs of the movies. She finds her favorites throughout the years, but she never really watched them. When COVID hit and we had nowhere to be in the evenings, Don Stamp through the collection and watch a movie or two. That was how I ended up watching Moana the first time. I will say during that first time, I enjoyed it more than her personal favorite Disney as of late, which is Encanto. But as we were preparing for Moana 2 to come out in theater, almost 8 years later, I was pumped to revisit the movie. Polynesian culture and history has become a fascination of mine, so I found this movie to be a great way to dip your toes in an accessible way to how the Polynesians lived on the island. Let's get into the review thought before I ramble too much. I do have a tendency to do that. A girl and her chicken venture across the Pacific to find a way to save her island. Before we get into the meat of the movie, there's some lore that's fairly significant. On the island of Metonoi, the villagers were worship a goddess of nature named Tifiti. Many years ago, she, as a living island, used a stone which is the source of her power and her heart to bring life all over the ocean. But one day, Mui, a demigod, stole Tifiti's heart. Tifiti fell apart when he took it, and a volcanic demon named Teka attached him. Muiz lost the heart in the shuffle along with his magical fishhook. A thousand years passes, the ocean chooses the daughter of the Montai chief as the person to return the heart. Her name is Moana, but her parents decide to keep her away from the ocean